Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. If you have seen my Plan With Me video from yesterday, you guys will probably know that I have not had the best week and my luck with filming has been a little bit off. So I'm hoping today will be a lot better, and in fact I know it's going to be a lot better, and I'm going to get straight into the books that I read in the last 7 days. So this is my reading wrap up from the 27th of May to the 2nd of June. I read 4 books this week, a total of 1,304 pages, and my yearly reading total is up to 94 books. This week I read a mixture of adult, young adult and middle grade fiction, so it was quite a good spread. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about them. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Into the Night by Sarah Bailey. This is a 2018 release from Allen and Unwin, and I did receive this as a copy for review, so thank you very much to them. It is the second book in the Gemma Woodstock series. I read The Dark Lake last year. I really enjoyed it, and I did really enjoy Into the Night. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Detective Sergeant Gemma Woodstock is a really interesting main character. She is quite troubled and she has her own personal demons that she's working through. And Into the Night sees her moving from her hometown, a very small country town, to Melbourne, and how she deals with the move to a big city where basically you can get lost in the city and there's so many people, but people don't really recognize when you're having troubles. This is a crime thriller book, so the main premise is that Gemma is put on the case of a murdered film star who was murdered on a film set in the middle of a shoot, and it happens to be a zombie film, so there are hundreds and hundreds of extras, and yet nobody seems to have seen anything, and even though they've got all the footage, it's very hard to tell. I really enjoyed the story. I found that it was just a little bit slow in the middle. It's very atmospheric in that sense, and it depicts Melbourne in a really interesting way that I hadn't thought about before. It was cool to see it being both the scene of a film but also the scene of a crime, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Then I read Songlines by Carolyn Denman. This was published in 2016 by Odyssey Books. It is a Love Oz YA story. It's kind of paranormal-ish, which is really cool. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Carolyn is also a member of the book club that I go to each month, and I was really excited to read her book because I think it just sounded so intriguing. It is set in the Wimmera region of Victoria. This part of Victoria is host to the gateway to Eden, which, you know, Garden of Eden. So there's a lot of really wonderful religious story aspects woven into this, as well as a lot of really wonderful Indigenous cultural aspects woven into it. Lainey is the main character in this story, and she lives and works on a sheep farm with her aunt. And one day a mining company begins sampling around the sheep farm where Lainey works, and a whole lot of secrets are suddenly revealed about her heritage, who she is and who her family are. There is a bit of an enemies to lovers trope in here, which I quite enjoy. That's no secret. There's also a mystery element, as one of the farmhands for her family's property, Harry, who is an Aboriginal elder, when he disappears, Lainey decides to investigate where he's gone and how to get him back. So I really enjoyed this story. Great first book in the series. I'll definitely be picking up the second and third books when I get a chance. If you like your Love Oz YA and you like your paranormal elements and you don't mind a good discussion around belief, and because this isn't so much about religion as it is about belief and stories, and I love religious texts. Which is weird to say, but I just like looking at them from a literature perspective, and I find them really fascinating. So I love when they're woven into stories and narratives. The third book that I read this week was The Elephant by Peter Carnauba, and this is a middle grade fiction. Well, it's shortlisted for the CBCA 2018 Younger Readers Shortlist, so that tends to be the middle grade, but this is probably okay for maybe 7 or 8 year olds up. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is a book that will make you cry. I was pretty much ready to bawl my eyes out when I read it. It tells the story of Olive, who lives with her father and her grandfather. We find out very early on that her mother passed away when she was quite young, and all her life she has seen this giant grey elephant wherever her father is, and this elephant just follows her father everywhere, weighs him down, and it's a really wonderful allegory for his grief and the fact that he's not really coping with the way things are. In her life, her granddad is really the parental figure, and this story is of how Olive finally decides that, you know, she wants to help her father. She's sick of seeing the grey elephant, and it's her journey of how she tries to reconnect with her father. It is just gorgeous. It's beautifully written. I think this is Peter Carnaubas's first novel. He writes a lot of children's picture books, which I also love, and he does the illustrations, and they're just gorgeous and whimsical. And the cool thing about it being a kid's book is there's pictures in it. There are just some truly, truly heartwarming moments in it, and if you're looking to discuss the effect of grief with kids, this would probably be a really great way to do it, because Olive's perspective is just really so intriguing and so childlike, because she just wants to help her dad. I loved it. I can't speak highly enough of it. And because I was having such a crappy week last week, I decided that I would actually go out and buy the latest Skulduggery Pleasant book at midnight, and I did, and I read it because I just needed something that I knew I would really enjoy. So this was released this week, so 2018, by HarperCollins, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is the 11th book in the Skulduggery Pleasant series, so I mean there's a whole lot of things that go on in the back here, and there's so many characters, and to be honest, I probably shouldn't have read a book with so many characters when I know that I always struggle to remember who's who and who's done what in the previous 10 books, because oh my gosh, there's a lot. But I really enjoy it, and I just love the banter between the characters in this series. It's something that Derek Landy does so well. So the blurb says that this book is about how Valkyrie Kane has always essentially tried to keep her family out of her magic life, and she tries to keep that separate and tries to keep them safe. And yet in this one, someone kidnaps her younger sister and she has to try and fight to get her back, and the catch is she has to do it by herself. And that is sort of the climax part of the book, but there's about half a book before you get to that storyline, and it's all sort of that world building and building on all the other stories and set up for this. So it wasn't irrelevant at all, and I really enjoyed reading it, but don't expect that main part to happen in the first half of the book. It was interesting to see in this book where and how alliances have shifted between different characters, and it was just nice to see Valkyrie and Skulduggery back being detectives. The banter that they have is really fun. I love all the cultural references that you get in this series because there are so many of them. I have to say it's one of those series now that I know started as middle grade, and it was very middle grade when it started, but I don't think it is anymore. It's not quite young adult, but it's also not quite middle grade. It's sort of this weird in between. Valkyrie herself is quite a bit older now, so I think that's probably what's shifting the tone. Another really cool aspect that I note that has been happening in sort of the last couple of books is Valkyrie's reflection on violence, because there's quite a bit of violence that happens in the book, and Skulduggery is a character who quite happily and readily admits that he is prone to violence and he'll just go for it. He doesn't feel guilt over hitting someone. Whereas Valkyrie has shifted her perspective a little bit, and she doesn't look for violence as the first response to a situation. And there's a lot of sort of thought process that she goes through now, and there's a lot of discussion, which I think is really cool and very important, because you don't always get those in books where there is a lot of action. For those of you who want to know, there's a tiny little bit of Tanith blow in this book, but not as much as there probably should have been, but I suspect that in future books she'll be popping up a little bit more frequently. But yes, I am so glad that there was another book in this series, and I can't wait for the next one. Those are the books that I read this week. I really enjoyed all of them. Even though it was a relatively ordinary week for me personally, at least I had some good books to keep me company. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, or let me know what else you have been reading. I would love to hear. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.